Welcome to Homeschool Life. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Adriana.
And Adriana, what are we talking about today?
We want to discuss what homeschooling is supposed to be. And really, it's supposed to, the way it's supposed to be is for you to be able to maintain a healthy lifestyle for your whole family.
Okay. Now, why are we doing this particular one? I've got an answer to it, but I want to see why are we
first.
Okay. Basically, a lot of people, when they first consider homeschooling, they've been involved in public school or their private school or something has happened. And
that's their only template they've had.
Yeah, and they remember their schooling and stuff like this. And I've had interesting, history. I've been homeschooled. I've had public school. I have private school. I have military school. I've had all these templates myself. And so I can kind of see where people are in that. Now the thing is most parents are like, I don't know what to do, but I remember in school they did this. I remember how they taught it to me, so I'm going to teach it to them that way. And so that's actually not the right approach, because you're kind of repeating the same problems.
Not only that, but it's a completely different animal. You can't say homeschooling is the same thing as an institutionalized system.
Right.
It's a completely different environment. Okay, and that's what we're going to bring to the light, why that is. And just a little background on myself, I've had both public and private schooling overseas and in this country.
Right.
So, so that's my experience with that. And homeschooling, my only homeschooling experience is with my own daughter.
Sure.
When I went ahead and decided to homeschool her and take that upon myself to do it.
Right.
I had the confidence that I could do a better job than the average teacher at the school system.
Right.
So anyway, so what exactly is homeschooling?
Well, I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit and throw the audience a bone and say homeschooling is parenting.
It is.
Okay? And the thing is they're not, a lot of people separate schooling from parenting. Yeah. And the thing is for years we've been outsourcing our responsibility to the public school system, to the state.
Pretty much.
Okay, or to private schools or whatever. But basically, we've outsourced that aspect of teaching and training our children to someone else.
Yes, you delegated that responsibility to someone else, basically. And the thing is because that's the template we've been given. You're supposed to send your school in so that they can receive the so-called education.
Right. And we did that because they at first, these teachers were specialized. It's like, think of a prairie school, right? They come in and I'm going to be your teacher. So the farmers and whatnot and city folks send their kids to the little red schoolhouse, right?
Yeah, there wasn't that much bureaucracy behind it.
No. And of course the parents, the teacher was very accountable to the parents. And there wasn't this massive bureaucracy isolating the parents from what their children are being taught. And
it's more about control. I think it's more manipulation.
Right. And so we had that growing up. We were part of the system, right?
Yep.
But the thing is in reality, teaching and educating our children is ultimately our responsibility.
It is a part of raising up your child, because let's again, the people who put their children in a school system, that person is with your child pretty much 8 hours a day.
Right.
Even more than that with after school activities. But basically someone else is grabbing all that aspect of that child's life during that period of time.
Right.
All the influences, all the lessons learned. Anything is picked up in that particular situation. So basically someone else is raising your child during that time.
I know, and that's where a lot of the problems stem from. Is because the values that you wanted to teach your children the values and things that are important to you and your family and stuff like this you wanted to pass on. Well, since these children are kind of isolated from you now, that is the source of a lot of indoctrination and a lot of values that are not necessarily your family's values, but of someone else.
Yeah, and you have to look is at the evidence. Okay, we have to look at the quality of our society right now, and a lot of people are not happy with the quality of our society right now. There's a lot of conflict.
How many times do we hear reports, even already? That parents get their kids home, from this COVID-19 thing, and they're going, my kid hasn't learned really anything. Okay. I sent
that or the kid doesn't want to learn anything.
Oh yeah, he's totally drained.
I can see the part of the parents who do want to, where in other words, the teachers who did have a plan to do school at home the same way, right?
Right.
And the parents trying to make that happen, but the kid doesn't want to do that.
Right, because it's the same thing. You're doing the same exact thing that the public school is doing, but just at a home setting, and that's actually not working. So
if you really look at it, homeschooling is part of raising your child.
It's part of parenting.
It's the educational aspect, but with everything else, life skills, values, is everything. It's everything you need to help that child grow up into this wholesome person in the end. So, but then again, people are confusing with, well, what about academics, right? Because that's the whole push about the school system. It's like, we have your kid for 8 hours a day, and all we're going to be responsible for is their academics.
Sure.
Okay? So, literally.
We spend in the United States, we spend way more money in our public school system than pretty much any other country, on the planet. And yet we still don't have the numbers saying that we're actually educating our children very well.
Exactly. There's not much of proof in there. And the thing is, we already know that most of that 8-hour time period that they're at school, there's a lot of wasted time.
Yes, of course.
It is a lot of wasted time. So really, for them to say, oh, we're taking care of his academics, there's not much to really show for that right there.
So the disconnect is really the approach. Okay, and what we're saying is, remember that if education is parenting, how did you educate your children to learn to walk, to learn to talk? How much patience did you use? Okay, did you give them a grade for learning how to walk? Okay, you can't put a template of the public school system or that methodology over parenting, okay? Because you're not going to really make a connection that you need to make in order to, the kid learns to walk. You don't say, okay, well, now that you've graduated, the next class is to go to potty training.
Yep.
Okay, you do it all together.
Right. So basically, again, what homeschooling is supposed to be is for maintaining a healthy lifestyle for the whole family.
Right.
Okay, so it's basically maintaining a happy, environment.
Peaceful environment so they can learn.
Exactly. And the thing is, that means that socially, you need to be able to build that strong bond with your kid, make those connections so that when you want to teach something, then you already have that bonding there.
Right.
And they want to learn from you.
Right.
So, again, going back to academics, how much academics do you really need to teach? I have posted this before, but again, just like I tell people, you want to know where your kid's supposed to be or where you want them to be, you have to look at the stages of development. That's the science behind it.
Well, we're gonna post this on our website once this is
right. So the people too actually. Children have problem with academics because it's abstract information, right? So you have to look at the science behind, and that is the length of sustained attention for a child. You have to understand that.
Right. You intuitively know See, the section of walking and talking and everything else like that, that section of education, we never gave away to the state. So we intuitively know how to do that with our children. Okay, you do this and you do this, and that knowledge has been passed down from mother to mother to, etc. And we already know that. What has been lost is the rest of the stuff that we outsource.
That you outsource
to the state.
Exactly. Why?
Why?
So people have to ask that question. Why did I do that? As a parent, why did I put my kid in? What was the reasoning? What am I getting out of it? What is my kid getting out of it?
Right.
Why don't you ask your kid what they think about it?
Sure.
That's like, controversial, because you don't want to. It's like, I should have asked the kid. They might tell me that they really hate it.
That's right.
But the thing is, what's going to be beneficial to you is knowing the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The kid is going to tell you, I really hate this. I don't like this subject. I really want, I really would like to spend more time with you, Mom. I really just want to watch my favorite movie with you today. I want to have that connection with you. I want to feel like you want to be with me.
Of course.
Not just that you're trying to accomplish certain tasks. It's like the child doesn't want to be a task on your list.
Right.
They want to be a part of your life. They want you to be able to function with them wholeheartedly in a peaceful environment. And
once that connection is made, once the connection is made and they have this trust and this camaraderie with you, and you can vocalize the reason why you're teaching certain things.
Right.
Okay. Then that's when learning happens.
So you're basically sharing your knowledge. You're sharing your knowledge and passion. And so that's why it's so easy to be able to share with them. This I'm going to show you how we cook dinner.
Right.
And I'm going to, for an older child, you can chop these things with me and we can make this meal together.
Right. And that's great. And we have this picture in our mind that just because we offer it, they're going to want to do it. There's some days, I asked Annabelle, I said, hey, do you want to help me with this chopping? No, not really. And I say, okay.
She had other plans, right?
Sure.
She's just another person, okay?
And then other times I said, hey, let me show you, this thing in the kitchen. Okay. She's ready at that moment. Okay. And she accepts me as a mentor of that certain task. But then I watch and observe. Once she starts getting bored, the lesson is over. Right. Okay. And so
it has to be enjoyable, basically.
Right. And so then that's okay, because she'll pick it up later.
Right. It's the same opportunities that present itself if I'm knitting something and she's interested, and so that becomes a knitting lesson right there.
No, I'm not saying that there's absolutely zero structure, but I'm just giving you examples. Yeah. We have schedules, okay?
Yeah. And I'll address that later.
Yes.
But the thing is what the information, the knowledge that you're sharing, right, and passing down is literally everything, okay? It's cooking, it's life skills, okay?
Right.
That's a big chunk of it, okay? Academics is a small chunk.
That's true. What we're trying to really explain right now is, how do you know that education is happening? How do you know that learning is happening with your child? And that's through observation. And this is something you did not have in regular school. What you had in regular school is the bell rings, everyone sits down, there's a lesson, you're supposed to regurgitate that lesson or do the homework, and then you move on to the next one.
And it's all based on memorization.
Yes.
Most of it is. Very little is hands-on experience, and the true learning is hands-on experience. You learn how to cook by cooking. You learn how to sew by sewing. Okay? This is why home economics class was so good when they offered it in the schools.
Oh, yeah. I had to take, if I was wanting to take shop, the school required that I also have to take home ec, which was, that was the first year that they had that requirement. Okay, because usually it was the girls take home ec and the boys take shop.
Right.
Okay, so hang on, I want to say this. The thing is I learned how to do certain things in home ec by actually doing them. You working with a sewing machine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, now growing up, my mom was a seamstress, on the side, and she made dresses and stuff like this, but she never taught me how to do any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But just in that one little class in 8th grade, I was like, I know how to do this. So even if you give me a sewing machine now, I know how it works, and I know how to load the bobbins, and it's like, but then I also know how to turn a lathe from wood.
Right.
It's all hands-on.
But you weren't given, these are the things you have to memorize.
Yes.
To pass the test. See, those are the life skills that are intuitively we know that we got to do hands-on with them.
I really didn't have tests in shop class.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's probably why kids really enjoy those type of classes over the academic ones, right? Obviously. Because
in those brief classes, they taught to mastery, not to a grade. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I know we're getting off the subject, but it's all about the observation, or when the child is actually learning, and you need to observe that. So,
and what I propose to people is academics should be the same method. It should be hands-on learning. Okay, there is an abstract portion of it, and really that abstract portion, children are only ready for it later on.
That's right.
12 years of age and older, they are ready. They actually gone through that passage to abstraction where they can literally read a textbook and not have a problem with it.
Right.
But younger children, they just don't have that ability. Anyway,
and I just want to make sure, because you zoomed past that, the pathway to abstraction. Okay, that's that rite of passage between the concrete of toddler, youth, and young children to self-learning. Right. Okay, is when they cross that bridge from pathway from concrete to abstract.
And this is why, as adults, we don't have a problem learning that way, because our minds are already developed. They're already matured to be able to take that abstract information and go and run with it.
Right.
But children don't have that ability. Okay, this is why the school system has to rely on so much memorization, because in a way they already know that children cannot grasp these concepts.
Right.
In any other way. They're not ready. So they're pushing this whole thing by using memorization.
Right.
And this is why after leaving the school system, kids don't remember any of this stuff. Adults don't remember any of this stuff. That's why they're having now the problem to pass on that information.
They go, housewife, or even a young mother or something like that, got great grades in school.
Graduated, right?
Graduated, and they had algebra 1 and 2, pre-calc, whatever, but they can't teach it. Why not?
And that's the evidence right there. You're the product of that same system, and you're going to teach it to your child, so they're going to have the same experience again?
No, you can't.
You can't. You shouldn't.
Okay, because the traditional system doesn't go from that concrete to abstract.
Right. They don't do that because they're trying to present the abstract stuff too early.
Yep.
And the only way that they can say that they're doing it is by memorization.
Sure.
And that's really not learning. That's just memorizing, passing a test, moving on, and that information is all forgotten after the fact. So that was pretty much a waste of time.
Pretty much. I mean, yes. I mean, there's some things you absolutely do have to memorize, like multiplication tables, and we'll get into that.
Yes, but there's a difference. There's a difference between forcing to memorize the information, right, versus the hands-on experience,
right,
where you end up storing that stuff in your memory. It's a different process. It's a different process. You should do the repetitive hands-on experience to store that information in your memory is completely different than giving you something to memorize in the beginning.
Right. That's true.
Completely different process.
It's like you're not going to teach really a lot of things by just giving worksheet after worksheet after worksheet. Basically, they just learn how to do worksheets.
Exactly.
Which in a factory is great.
It's mindless work.
Right, and that's why kids are bored out of their minds.
Okay. If we didn't have such a good capacity to be able to memorize, they wouldn't have banked on that approach so much.
Right.
Okay, so it's to a detriment in a way.
Yes.
So anyway, so academics. Actually, I would say academics. You can actually teach academics concretely.
Yes.
Okay, and then you can do the passage to abstraction between 11 and 12 years old.
Sure.
And then they're ready to receive all the information after a fact in an abstract way. Just like adults do, going to seminars where there's lectures or whatever, you can actually, your brain is already mature enough to accept the information in that form.
In the abstract manner, yes.
Right. So what are academics? Academics are the subjects like mathematics, the English literature, or literature for other countries and other languages. It is sciences, it's a history or social studies, which is geography as well. All of those are the subjects that you call academics. And that requires the child to be able to sustain attention, right?
Yes.
If you want them to be able to learn and absorb the information, you have to realize that children can only sustain that attention for a period of time.
And it's age dependent.
That's the science behind it, is they know that they can't sustain it any longer. It's just but because of maturity. They lack the maturity. Their brain is not fully developed to be able to handle more.
Right.
Okay? So, according to this, children in the pre-K level, these are the toddlers. Well, they're not the toddlers. They're age...
Three to four. Yeah, that's toddler.
Older than toddler, because toddler's like 2, 3. Anyway, there's the recommended length of sustained attention is 3 to 5 minutes. So and that actually falls in line with what we said about the stages of development. They're all about discovering things for themselves. They want to touch everything.
That's right.
They're ready to grab stuff. They're not ready to sit down and pay attention to somebody.
Right. And if you're actually listening to this podcast and you see the image on the screen of a nice little brook, I mean, don't you just want to walk in there and just discover pebbles?
That's
right. That's why I posted that one. But
if a kid this age would be like getting themselves wet, they will be right in the stream, grabbing the sticks, digging their hands, and they're just trying to make sense of it all.
And that's learning.
That's their learning stage. That's what they need.
Their occupation is to play.
Right. That's how they satisfy their
curiosity.
That's what they need for them to develop in a healthy way. And then the next level is kindergarten. That's age 5, I believe. Again, 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So they're still in the discovery mode. Again, it goes with the stages of development. They need to look at things, touch them. They so curious.
And this is also why.
So don't kill it.
No, right.
By trying to make them listen to you about something.
And I want to include this. It wasn't. I want to include this one section. You at this stage of development, it is not a good idea to introduce any sort of electronics or something like this, because it stunts their ability to discover with their hands.
Right.
Okay. And so I would suggest that everyone not even have like cable TV or anything like that to compete with the aspect of hands-on tactile learning.
And you have to let them touch. Let them play with the dirt. Let them grab the leaves. Let them look at the rocks. Have them look at the animal. This is why people take them to the zoo and aquarium, because they want to look at those things, right?
Of course.
But when you're at home, of course, the electronics are a bad idea. Totally. That's right. And you want to have those educational toys that are made of natural materials, like wood, like wood blocks.
Sure.
Things like that, these puzzles that kind of really stimulate their curiosity. Again, it's about the discovery mode.
Right.
Okay. Another good resource is Montessori materials. You want to look at the early childhood Montessori materials? Go right ahead. They have wonderful learning things, hands-on, for them to discover different aspects. A lot of them have to do with discrimination.
between different colors.
I was going to explain that, right?
So, not like discrimination.
No, discrimination is actually a good thing. But what does that mean? Is there are materials that come in different sizes, okay? And the reason why they need to discriminate is so you can introduce new language, like this one's shorter, this one's longer, this one's bigger, this one's small. So that's what I mean by discrimination.
What got me is one of the Montessori materials was shades of color.
Yes, that color.
Oh my God. That actually, I was looking at them and go, I can't tell the difference between these two colors. But my daughter is like, oh, that's this one, and this and this one, and this is that one.
So you introduce new vocabulary with the colors. You go from the basic primary into the different shades of them, and they each have their own name. Lavender, for example.
Right.
So you're introducing language. Okay. Then you have fabrics. You introduce vocabulary that way. You start with soft and rough or whatever, and then you start saying, okay, this is velvet, this is cotton. So that's why that discrimination is to introduce not just concepts but vocabulary.
One of the first things I did with Annabelle on cooking, even before I had her even actually cooking, is what I did is I gathered the spices. And I said, okay. I opened them up and let her smell some. I mean, I said, don't breathe in deep, just smell softly, and had her smell the different spices,
right?
So that she could and told her what the name was of each spice, and I would say, what kind of food does this spice remind you of? And I had cumin, and I said, what is it? It's like, well, it reminds me of beans, right? And so she starts associating food with different spices, so that once those neural pathways are created, then when she actually is going to be in the kitchen, she'll just intuitively know what spices go with which food.
Exactly. So you're satisfying their discovery by introducing them not just to the natural world outside, but to your everyday life. And they need to do that through their sensory levels,
right?
Through touch, through looking at things, through smelling things, and also tasting things. The Montessori material, some of them have what they call tasting bottles, and also the smelling bottles.
Excuse me.
And that's so they can discriminate. And actually what it is kind of like a matching game.
Sure.
They have duplicates of everything, and so they're supposed to compare, discriminate, and then match them up.
Right.
And so that turns into a game, but it's a learning game.
Yeah.
So
and then of course if they have more than one person doing the same game, they start interacting together.
Exactly.
And saying, well, what does this smell like to you? Blah blah.
So
blah.
it becomes a very entertaining and enjoyable learning process right there. And let me tell you, these are so popular that the kids do it over and over and over, and because of that repetitive, the information gets stored in their memory.
That's right.
They're not memorizing; they're just learning in the right way.
And one of the other aspects of this repetitive thing, where they really really enjoy something, Annabelle really loves books, and she's loved them since that's one of the first things she was able to do is learn to read at a very young age. But one of the things she loves to do is when she really loves a story, she will read it 8, 9, 10, 11 times.
So many times.
And even if they're like novels.
And the thing is, the dialogue is stored in her memory.
Oh yeah.
She can tell you this whole little thing and it's not because it was memorized, it's because of the repetitive exposure to it.
I remember when she was 4 and she came in my office and said, Daddy, I wrote my name in Morse code. I go, really? Here. And she handed me a Post-it note and had her name down below and the Morse code above. And I said, oh, let me take a look. And so I just quickly looked it up online. I go, yeah, that's right. I says, where did you learn that? And she goes, oh, in my in your navigation book.
Yep.
I never I mean, I had the navigation book in the classroom, but it's just as a reference. But she pulled it out and absorbed it herself and found that was interesting.
Exactly, because that's how you introduce things. The way you introduce that independence for them to look at their own resources is you have to show them that.
That's right. And because she showed it to me and I showed an interest, I didn't just say, "Oh, that's nice."
Right.
Every time a kid comes and shows you, "Daddy, look at this leaf." Look at the leaf.
Exactly.
Engage with them because it's the first time they've ever seen something. It could be just the veins on the leaf or something, but something caught their attention, right?
Right.
And because it's interesting to them, that means it needs to be interesting to you as a parent, and because that is your moment when you make that connection with your child and you actually become the mentor. Okay? Because they're showing you, they're waiting for you to say, that is really interesting.
Right. So if this sounds interesting to you and you're thinking what kind of materials you want to have, you may want to look into Montessori materials because they are spot on with the stages of development. Okay, for early childhood children, where they have an opportunity to make these discoveries on their own and learn many different concepts. So look into that. They have things in botany. Very, very. I think that it appeals to their senses. It's really brilliant. So look into that or just ask about it more.
Sure.
So moving on to the sustained attention. The grade levels. Okay, here we are starting the elementary.
Right. We'll post this whole thing on our website.
So
where are we at?
Okay. Oh, okay. There's a part of the chart that I didn't cover, but I'm going back to the pre-K and kindergarten stage that said 3 to 5 minutes is the recommended length of sustained attention. But here they have a minimum and a maximum. They say for pre-kindergarten, 20 minutes a day, minimum, and maximum 60 minutes a day, which is an hour, which I think is too much realistically. So
for that age group, yes.
But anyway, that's what they have here. But they understand that the sustained attention length is 3 to 5 minutes. So just to have that in mind. And the kindergarten level, minimum is 30 minutes a day, and maximum 90 minutes, an hour and a half. Also a little bit too much. Okay.
Now, this is the interaction for the education, for homeschooling.
Right.
But this is not necessarily the time that you are going to spend time preparing materials.
Yeah, well, let's not address that. Just you're going to spend time with your kid all day, basically.
Sure.
Okay, this is just things that you think. Let me introduce academics or skills, right?
Of course.
This is realistic what your kid can handle as far as learning something, because they're not ready for that. They want to discover things hands-on on their own.
Right.
So that's the point that we're trying to make.
That is true, but I just added that because that somebody might be thinking about older kids.
We're gonna get there. Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, please continue.
So the next, again, starting with for the elementary levels, 1st to 2nd grade, that's ages 6, 7. Okay, they say a minimum of 45 minutes a day, a maximum of 90 minutes a day, an hour and a half, and the recommended length of sustained attention is 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, again, they're very young.
Right.
That's why they need the concrete materials. They still need to understand these concepts with their hands and by looking at them. So again, if you're curious, the Montessori has a fantastic approach to mathematics with concrete materials. They have color beads, okay, and with the color beads they introduced the concept of units, okay, tens, hundreds, the decimal system, but not only that, but they actually grasp concepts like what the square of a number is and what a cube of a number is. And it's actually really brilliant because they get to visualize and they get to touch what that means. What's the square of a number?
Right. That's a very abstract term.
Very abstract term. And if you're just going to write that on paper, it doesn't mean anything for an immature mind.
Right. So that's why Montessori came up with these systems.
Right. It banks on the stage of development where they need to touch this stuff. This is how they absorb the information around them and how they actually learn. Because how do you know that someone learns something? It depends on their long-term memory, right?
Right.
There's a difference between short-term and long-term memory, and the school system banks on the short-term memory, which you memorize, pass the test, forget about it.
Right.
Okay? The stuff that you know for good, the things that you can say you're an expert on, and you don't have to look it up, that you can actually say this is how you do something, that is based on long-term memory. Okay, that's what we're talking about. The next grade level here is grade level 3 to 5th grade. That's ages 8 to 10 approximately. They say a minimum of 60 minutes a day and a maximum, that's an hour, and a maximum of 120 minutes a day.
That's 2 hours.
Right. So, and the recommended length of sustained attention is 10 to 15 minutes. That makes sense. So you're gonna have their attention from 10 to 15 minutes, and then you're gonna expect to be able to move on to something else.
Right.
So because they want to learn, they're trying to connect still concrete materials. We can actually introduce abstract concepts, but concretely.
Right.
Okay.
Well, also the fact that you may get their attention, and all of a sudden they're engaged. And you will go beyond that 10 minutes. And as long as they're engaged, don't interrupt them.
Right.
Okay? You'll see, use your observation, you will see when they start to become disengaged.
They're ready to move on, basically.
And they're ready to move on and just go with that flow.
You have to pay attention to that, and that's why we're giving you these tools so that you know what to expect and what to look for. Now,
the thing is I've had a class with her and with our daughter, and I've gotten to where she just wasn't engaged at all. And I finally said, look, Annabelle, I apologize. Okay, it is my job as your guide to make this important to you. Okay, and I guess I wasn't prepared. I said, let me think about it. And let's try. We can try it again tomorrow, and I'll try to do better to let you look at this and see if I can make this more interesting for you.
Right.
Okay. And you know what? She was like, "Okay, Daddy." And so the next day we got together, and we were able to go through it. And the thing is I didn't have to push her. No, you were going to do this.
Right.
Right?
We must do it.
We must do this, or we'll get behind.
Right.
Okay, because that's a very bad approach. Because
terrible.
It's stress. But I told her, says, look, I need to be prepared myself. Okay, and so I need to present it to you. And if you can't give a good reason why they're supposed to learn something, they're not going to learn it. Okay, you have to appeal to their sense of what's in it for me.
Right. And the thing is, it's also what it's also proven is that when you have one person teaching something and you have, for example, 30 students,
right,
you're not going to do a very good job of passing on that information, because you have to divide your attention among 30 students. And so the benefit of you having them at home is it's kind of like a one-on-one.
That's right.
And you can be so much more efficient when you're one-on-one. You can actually just focus.
Homeschooling, home-based education is far more efficient and far easier than what they try to do in public school system.
Right.
Okay.
So,
and once you really grasp your head around that one, it'll make your job a heck of a lot easier.
And the thing is, the reality is, homeschool kids go at a faster pace.
Yeah, they do.
They actually advance a lot quicker because it's a one-on-one instruction. And so if you realize that, then you know that you can just relax. Okay? All you got to do is have a happy learning environment, and the kids will drive themselves to want to learn these things on their own.
Right.
you don't have to be behind. You don't have to be after them or supervising them so much.
I mean, we got a general idea of from state requirements and stuff like this on what they're supposed to learn. Supposed to learn to get into college, to pass their state exams and stuff like that.
That's coming out to be kind of bogus too.
It really is. But but what I will say that we all know. Okay, well, you're going to have, if they're going to go into college, they're going to have some algebra and all these other classes that they say. Some states require a history of the state, like Texas history, Washington history, those type of things. We all know those things, okay? And you can teach those things in the same manner.
Right, but don't teach them because you have to meet a requirement, right?
Right.
Teach them because you know that it's important and meaningful to learn them. And
it may be that all you have to do is say, like for Texas history, you go to the Alamo, and they say, well, why is this building important?
Exactly.
And so there's your inroad.
Exactly. Good point. All right, the next grade level, 6th grade to 8th. This is ages, is it 12? No, 11. 11 and middle school age. So this same, a minimum, okay, of 15, for one class, in other words, one subject, 15 minutes a day, or in total altogether with many subjects, 90 minutes a day. And
for which age group?
For the 11-year-old and middle school age.
Okay.
Okay. A maximum for one class or one subject, 30 minutes a day, and total 180 minutes a day. Okay, so the recommended length of sustained attention, one subject area or class. So that kind of makes sense because this is like the preteen and early teenagers where they're all about the social interaction. This is again same as it goes in hand with the stages of development. They're what they need to learn is something completely different. So it's the social interactions, the relationships, how to be with other people. This is why they sometimes reach out to peers.
That's right. That's exactly why they reach out to peers.
So,
and of course, the whole boring aspect of, well, if you have homeschooled children, how are they going to socialize? And I've addressed that in lots of different methods, but basically, children learn to socialize from people who are actually socialized.
Exactly.
Okay, and that should be the parents. Okay.
But that starts early on from small children.
Sure.
Because it's a socialization. There's an aspect at every stage of development.
And even with homeschooling, in your area, there's probably homeschool groups, and they get together and have interactions together. And in our community, we have homeschool groups, and there's field trips and all kinds of things. Right. Anyway.
So the last one is grade level 9 to 12, which is the high school age group of kids. They can spend a minimum of 20 minutes a day per class, right, or a total of 120 minutes per day, and a maximum of 45 minutes per day per class, or a class, or a total of 270 minutes per day. Recommended length sustained attention is one subject area or class. So basically, just to kind of give a good explanation, is these time frames is for you to introduce either academics or skills that they're not intuitively interested in.
Right.
Okay. So you're able to have their attention for a particular time, and you can only expect to present them with a certain amount of time of information. Right. So don't expect to be able to do more because they won't absorb it. their brain is not mature enough. Even as adults, there's a certain amount of information I can't handle.
Right.
I want to learn something. I have to take it at a particular pace and amounts that I think it's okay for me to absorb it properly.
Right.
Okay. So especially if I want to learn how to cook something, actually a better example is decorating cakes. I took a lot of class. Well, I didn't take class. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to pipe.
Right.
Watch a lot of videos on culinary chefs and how they decorate their cakes and all the tricks and everything. And so I took I realized how many videos can I watch, right? The length of them. And it's driven by me because I know how much of my attention I can sustain.
And that is something that a lot of homeschoolers, people going into homeschooling, they have this mental image in their head of my kid will be in high school and I don't have the ability to teach them algebra.
Yes.
Okay, and they're afraid of that, and so that kind of stymies them a bit. And what really is happening, what really will happen is, at that, if you've gone from abstract to, concrete to abstract, right? Then you've passed through that element of agency.
Exactly.
And now they are self-learning,
independent.
Right? Independent learners. And see, that's why Montessori, she only developed her systems to a certain age, because the understanding was that they were, at that time, where you get your career was in the trades.
Right.
Okay.
So you have an apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship.
And so a kid in 12 years of age and older is able to start their apprenticeships.
Right. And so that's why she didn't develop it sooner, because all that learning would be...
It's independent and it's self-driven, and therefore unique to that individual. So why would she develop a system? That's their point, where they're independent, they're on their own, they have all the tools and skills to be able to pursue further advanced learning on their own, and acquire advanced knowledge on their own.
And that still applies today, even though the times have changed, where we, at 12 and 13, they don't go into apprenticeships anymore. However, what they do go into is that self-learning mode. Okay, and so that's where they're supposed to anyway. But what happens is public school and that system, even in private school, it's all the same model.
The traditional school system, they didn't provide them the methods to hone on those skills.
Well, specifically to self-learn.
To be independent.
Because they tell them everything to do.
They're at the college level and they're still being told what to do in most.
That's right. They go a month before graduating, that everyone at the senior class has to go see the guidance counselor and tell them what they want to do. Mm-hmm. What do you want to do? Or maybe a few months before, it's like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go to college? And blah, blah, blah. And they're supposed to know.
They're supposed all of a sudden to know at that moment, when they should have been thinking about that a long time beforehand.
And you wouldn't get that way. You wouldn't get to that point unless there's that moment of self-learning. Right. Okay. But if you keep telling kids what to do all the time, they're like, well,
they will never arrive to that independence.
No. So, and we've talked about that before, but
yeah. So anywho, that's basically what homeschooling is supposed to be, is for you to be able to maintain a healthy lifestyle for your whole family.
Right. And that really it's parenting. Homeschooling is part of parenting, and we've outsourced it to the public school system, to the government school system, to this big bureaucracy, right? And we need to recapture it, just like we know what to do with teaching children these small things, like learn to walk. When they're babies
and toddlers.
Yes, we intuitively know.
We need to continue that on until the age of 12.
That's right. We continue on.
Your child can continue on with the advanced information. You don't have to master that to teach it to them. They're going to pick it up on their own if that's what they want to learn.
That's right. So that's really our talk for today.
Yes.
And so thank you for listening. We appreciate it. Come visit us at homeschoollife.net.
our Facebook page,
our Facebook page,
our YouTube channel,
Homeschool Life LLC. Donate on Patreon, our PayPal. We'd appreciate it. It helps us continue this work.
And book with us if you want more one-on-one guidance on how to apply all these things to your particular family.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a pleasant day.
Bye.
Bye.